Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Welcome home to our Torah studying community. I must admit that I am amazed by the fact that our viewership has kept strong even to the midst of the summer months. You're great, and I am very grateful. We have all, I hope, survived the Siyum parties that marked the ending of the reading of the book of Numbers this past week. My Chevra Torah here at University Synagogue in Los Angeles sampled an utterly remarkable slivovitz. And now everyone here is anxiously awaiting the arrival of Simchat Torah so that they can get back at that bottle again. In the world of education, we call that extrinsic motivation. This is the Hebrew month of Av, the 11th month of the Hebrew calendar year. Next month is Elul, then comes Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Hebrew year 5778. This coming Monday evening and Tuesday is Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, a darkly brooding reminiscence of past suffering. For 24 hours, we Jews all around the world, will remember the destruction of the first temple and the second temple and the expulsion from Spain and various other catastrophes that afflicted the Jewish people across the ages. Only one tragedy, the tragedy, has been separated off for its own commemoration. That, of course, is Yom HaShoah, a Holocaust Remembrance Day. But okay, now to our text. What a magnificent book is the book of Deuteronomy. Love it. Its format is a series of lectures given by Moses to the people as they finally, after 40 years of wandering, are ready to enter the land of promise. They're not just at the border, they are ready to go in. Moses will remind the Israelites of God's protecting love, but he will also strenuously assert that they have failed God time and again. They have been unbelieving. They have even gone so far as to ignore those miracles which God had set before them as they pleaded for better food, better living conditions during the desert wandering. But after that rehearsal of our highly textured history, there comes a clarification, a repetition, in fact, we know, an expansion of the laws already given. And thus we get the name Deuteronomy, Deuteronomos, a repetition of the law. That's what most of Deuteronomy is all about. One of my favorite resources in preparing these study encounters is a set of volumes entitled Me'am Lo'ez. It is easily accessible in the English under the name The Torah Anthology. I'll only just point out that Me'am Lo'ez is a very traditionally focused text. The editor of Me'am Lo'ez is extremely uncomfortable with how Deuteronomy begins. Moses calls to mind in serious detail how the people have fallen short of divine expectations. What have they done? Well, there is idolatry, adultery, rebellion, ceaseless complaints, disrespect for Moses and Aaron. What a really wonderful bill of indictment against our beloved ancestors. But now it appears that God doesn't like what Moses is doing. It seems that it's perfectly all right for God to rage, sometimes even accompanying that rage with deadly punishments against the people's shortcomings. But that doesn't give Moses the right to follow suit. It struck me that this situation is quite similar to a parent's comfort in carefully pointing out a child's shortcomings. Do you really have to put the Cheerios there? But then to react with serious antagonism when someone else, even a close family member, points out those very same failings. Your kid is putting the Cheerios where? And the parent says, stop criticizing my kid. That's my job. That's what's going on here. So in a variety of midrashim, Moses is heard painfully explaining to God that he was just reminding the people of their serious shortcomings for two really important reasons. One, so that they might repent and thus be spiritually ready to enter the land of Canaan. That's good. And secondly, so that they'll be able to fortify themselves against the temptations which arise by their having to live among the 7 Canaanite nations that already exist in the land. Don't fall under the sway of those people. Don't imitate their behaviors. Don't be attracted to their patterns of worship, nor by the standards by which they conduct their lives. You, O Israelites, have tried that route in the desert, and the consequences for you were horrific. You are different, O house of Israel, and you'd better not forget that. Nicely done, Moses. But it seems that God has zero tolerance for those who criticize the people of Israel. We remember Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, as a powerful source of those ethical norms that still guide what we would describe as expected norms of Jewish behaviors. But while setting out those ethical norms, Isaiah did not hesitate to tell the people how far they have fallen from God's ways. And so the Midrash notes elsewhere how God punished Isaiah for his vituperation. Same with the prophet Elijah. The same even with a number of rabbis in the Talmud. Thus we are told in the Midrash, if one admonishes the Israelites, be careful about not speaking badly about them and don't insult them. And we are also told, whoever speaks well about the Israelites, God raises such a person up in the world. Wow. What a fine line. What a tough set of guidelines. Our friend Professor Google tells us that to admonish someone is to reprimand, rebuke, scold, reprove, chastise, berate, or criticize. So, hear this, admonishing is a good thing, but speaking badly or insultingly is forbidden. No wonder Moses gets into trouble with God even in the very last days of Moses' life. There are just too many hairs to split. How do we criticize someone without tearing him or her apart, without destroying their ego defenses? Criticism, properly administered, is a vitally necessary part of encouraging acts of self-improvement. But too much criticism applied too harshly, lacking in awareness as to how words of displeasure coming from a loved one can be devastating, will rip a person apart. Finding the proper words in the proper setting at the proper time is not just an act of kindness, it is desperately important. And that is true, I believe, also when offering thoughtful and significant criticism of the state of Israel. That Israel is one of the greatest achievements ever of the Jewish people is, in my eye, beyond criticism, beyond question. But that Israel, so very precious to us, still falls short of the dreams that its founders had for a fully democratic, fully Jewish, fully just nation state that would not just simply exist, that would become L'or goyim, a light unto the nations. That is what a fulfilled Zionist dream looks like. We want Israel to be an exemplar as to how lofty ethical norms can become part of the nitty-gritty of building and defending and sustaining a modern nation state. That is our tikvah. That's our hope. But our Sedra warns us to walk that careful line between loving admonition and public berating and brutal chastisement. My friends, Israel's enemies don't need our support. They are doing quite well on their own. But Israel's friends, Israel's leaders, Israel's most committed advocates need to hear and hear clearly our deeply held concern. Walking that line is quite a challenge for us, but it's a challenge we dare not avoid. Well, that's it for this week. If you fast on Tisha B'Av, have a tzom kal, an easy fast, and even if you just set some time aside to remember what prices were paid so that we might live in this time of extraordinary blessing. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, please hit share, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.